Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. On Tuesday, the Tennessee Titans fired head coach Mike Vrabel after 6 seasons at the helm and a 54-45 record after the Titans went 6-11 in the 2023 season. Titans controlling owner Amy Adams Strunk sat down with voice of the Titans Mike Keith yesterday and was asked why it was time to make a change.
The last 2 seasons have been very disappointing, and the fans felt it, I felt it. We made changes last year, and I came to believe we needed to make a change to the coaching staff.
Justin Mello of the Draft Network reported today that the Titans have requested to interview Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. College basketball tonight, Tennessee travels to Mississippi State for game number 2 of the SEC slate. The Vols tip off at 6 p.m. You can hear the Vol Network coverage starting at tip-off right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
All right, everybody. Let's play a little game as we start the show.
What?
Do you know any more than you did yesterday? After hearing the general manager of the team come out and he talked like 36 minutes or something.
Was it that long? I actually turned it off, I have to admit.
The stream went about 40 minutes. He didn't talk till about 4 minutes in.
Yeah, so they started the stream, and he was up there, and then they went back to the break screen, and then they brought him back again, like mid-answer, or mid his opening statement, like in the middle of the first sentence, and then he just talked a whole lot of nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's how I felt that from the beginning, and I just like, I got something to do. This is not, I mean, after Amy made her statement, I thought it was really tough situation for him to really answer questions truthfully all the way down to even him and Mike Vrabel never had any, disagreements or conflicts, and,
We were in lockstep.
Yeah,
I wrote that quote down.
I was like, oh, wow. Well, I don't maybe Vrabel's team that put that out there to the national media was not true. Oh, no, it was. He just didn't want to say it. You know what? I looked from the whole point of view. I felt like, okay, this is like when somebody passes away and you're up there speaking, and you're not going to say anything negative about them because that's not the time or the place.
Right. Fred was a
actually do
terrible
that.
human being. No one liked
Right.
Fred. Right.
And so that's kind of how I approached it after listening to him halfway through. And then I was like, we're not going to get anything here. And then all the reporters, they're trying to get answered questions. They're talking over each other and everything else. So I just was like, I'm not going to get anything out of it. There's no way. I mean, yeah, man. I didn't listen to the tail end of it. I mean, did he ever say anything?
They may give Skoronski a look at tackle.
Oh, did he say that?
That came up later.
Yeah, someone did ask him about that.
Yeah.
Well, so they
How in the world are you this bad at tackle? You draft an All-American tackle first. You don't give him a look at that. Well, he was a guard. We'll give him a look at guard. He's trying to learn that. We didn't want him to complicate things. I'm paraphrasing. It's all written down. We could read it. It's like, would you consider giving him a shot? We'll consider. Yeah. We'd consider. Yeah, we'd consider.
Okay, now hearing that, does that mean Vrabel wanting to make guard, so we let Vrabel do Vrabel? Now that Vrabel's not here, see, this is how I read through things. That could be an option. Not saying that it will or that it won't. I'm just reading the tea leaves. If somebody said that, then you say, well, why didn't you do that then? Because they didn't.
It'll be very interesting to see how that influences, and whatever head coach, how that influences how they draft coming up. Because if they are going to think about Skoronski at tackle, do you draft a tackle at 7? If you're committing yourself, and he didn't, but if you're committing yourself to give Skoronski a look, are you really going to draft a tackle at 7 if you're going to put Skoronski there regardless?
It's a bad time to be having to figure that out, isn't it?
It's a terrible time to be figuring that out.
You
have no idea what Skoronski is going to be.
NFL.
Exactly.
Nope.
So the only way I'd take a risk on that is if I'm going to say this. I'd make him the front side tackle, not the back side. No,
I guess it's
no
an option,
way.
but then you need a left guard.
Yeah, well, guard's easier to find than
Yeah.
a tackle, though. That's those guys are supposed to be cream of the crop, but yeah, that probably won't happen. He'll still be a left guard. Dang, he said, "Oh wow."
We may give Peter a look talking about left
Mhm.
tackle. I found that's the quote. Peter's a player I would never bet against and say that he couldn't do something or that he couldn't play. But we thought at the time when we drafted him, we'd put Peter at guard and he'd be a mainstay. I know a lot of people are upset because he was up there 30-something minutes and he didn't really say anything. You know, we were talking about this before the show. Like Blaine said, it's like the day after a funeral. You're not going to go up there and say a bunch of bad stuff. You're just not going to. And somebody said, I feel sorry for him. I don't feel he's getting paid to evaluate players and sometimes to stand in front of the media.
Yeah.
It's a bad situation,
Uh-huh.
but your job description says sometimes you got to talk to the media.
Well, I mean, especially when your owner is not going to sit down and talk to and take questions.
Yep.
That is part of your job.
Yep.
No different than Vrabel taking questions on when a player messed up out there. I mean, they probably went over it 50 billion times. You got to take the bullets. I mean, to be honest, and answer the questions. That's how it goes.
And this is from a fan perspective. I just wish someone who was in the room when it happened had been up there answering questions. And I'm glad she put out the video with Mike Keith. I think Mike Keith did a great job asking her questions.
Yeah.
But I wish she would have been in a media setting and not what I can only assume were predetermined questions for her to prepare. What is what I can only assume.
I think that's a fair assumption.
And I just wish she would have taken just some of them. Maybe not the whole time, but just some of them so we could have her perspective of someone in the room in a natural, wild environment and not a predetermined environment.
Yeah,
that we got.
I agree. I think it should have been both of them up there. I do.
Oh, all right, I'm gonna ask you guys this, since that's what a lot of the people here locally are saying. I'm just trying to, outside of big name owners, Jerry Jones comes to mind. When does the owner sit down and take questions from the national media or local media? So I think we're going a little too
Maybe
far
asking
here.
for something that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I just. I'm sure it happens in some cities because I'm not listening to all of them, but I've never seen on TV, owners getting bombarded with questions about things that happen with the organizations. It's always kind of predetermined when they are taking questions outside of probably, I'm going to just say, a handful of guys.
Well, let's think about just this coaching cycle. What teams that have fired their head coach have their owners spoken publicly? Didn't Tepper speak publicly earlier in the season after?
Well, he was a new owner.
And
that's
okay,
a one-time.
didn't Arthur Blank? Is it Blank or
Yeah,
Blank? Blank for he spoke after firing Arthur Smith, I believe. So I mean, there's two.
But did
just
he get bombarded with questions by their media?
I wasn't sure. I
don't
didn't
think so.
follow it but I just know he spoke publicly and not like
Right.
how
And
Amy
spoke
did it.
publicly just now.
Yep.
See, she spoke publicly, and she's not actually asked. She doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
know she doesn't. Yeah, I know she doesn't.
That's what I think we're expecting more than what we've seen in general, and to me, that sets the platform to say that, oh yeah, we should get all of this carte blanche. We should be able to get the owner and sit there. I mean, man, I don't remember that. Besides when Rand was hired, which was and Vrabel was up there. I'm trying to think over the time of just say here with Amy. I would say she's more visible than most.
She's been visible.
So I get it because it's change and we want answers, but there are no answers yet. That's just how I looked at it. I didn't expect very much at all.
Yeah.
To be honest. Once she made her statement, that's all I needed to hear. Rand is employed by his owner, and he wasn't going to speak against anything that she spoke on and go into detail of any of that. So I want to ask anybody else out there, if their boss made a statement and they're the CEO of a company, and then you are, let's say, branch manager over, the state of Tennessee, I don't think you'll be coming out speaking against what the CEO said about the company. You're going to go lock in step whether you agree with it or not, because if you don't, you will not be employed. So I think people will lose perspective in sports that is so different than the corporate world. It's not any different. The boss is the boss, and that's how it goes. No different in your house. The parents are the boss. And you better abide by the rules, or you may get punished. And the punishment in the corporate world, in the sports, is you get fired. So do I want more answers? Yes, but I don't know if they thought that this was the time, based off how they were talking, that we were going to get any information outside of what Amy said.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of both their answers and some of their questions. Is I'm not ready to share that at this moment, especially in terms of the vision of the team moving forward, who the new head coach would report to. I know they both were like, we'll share that we'll share that at the end of the process.
Right. So some of these big city markets, I'm interested to see. I want to see where Arthur Blank, as Georgia's, Atlanta's a big market. There's some people are saying that he was asked a few tough questions. So I'd love to see how he responded to him. But yeah, it's just I think we're asking for something that doesn't happen a lot. It definitely happens. But this was a time maybe that you wanted to speak up, but maybe they wanted to wait and go down the road to see, and then maybe they answer the question. They may not ever answer the questions, really, to be honest. I know people wanted more because I wanted more. That's why I turned it off. I said, this is the going nowhere. We were talking in circles.
The other issue I had with Rand being the one speaking is he's worked with Vrabel for 1 year. That was the only other issue is like he knows Vrabel, but he doesn't know Vrabel like that. He might. I don't know. It didn't feel like someone who's worked with him for 1 year should be the one answering questions about letting a guy who's been with this organization for 6 years and had a huge turnaround when he first started should be the one answering those questions. That was my only.
Yeah, they probably. Yeah. I mean, did y'all want him to come on and say, man, you know what? Me and Vrabel just really disagreed on a lot of different players. And then guess what? That opens the can of worms of 50 billion questions now.
Yep.
What players? What did y'all disagree on? What do you want, man? So then the presser goes in a whole nother. We might have been sitting there an hour or two. And so I think he had to play it like that and, take the punches and the blows and look, somewhat like a ding-dong.
Well, again, 30-something minutes from Rand Carthon, a recorded message with Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Keith. So we did get both of those things yesterday. So lots to sort out with that. The Titans also had released a statement that some people are kind of going back to and trying to read stuff into. So we'll do a whole lot of that today. But here's what we're going to do. Jesse Simonton is going to come on with us next. We're going to have Jesse Simonton on. Going to wrap up the college football season. We canceled him yesterday. We're going to have him today. We'll do a few minutes with him, and then guess what we're going to do? We'll get right back into this. We'll take your calls. We'll read your responses. We will do all of that stuff. So a few minutes with our buddy Jesse Simonton, even maybe where the Vols fit in next year with the 12-team playoff, because I know On 3, where he works, has been putting out stuff about that. We'll get to all that, and we'll take your phone calls, and we'll have you guys on. We'll have Jordan Dajani. It's going to be a big day, so sit back and enjoy Blaine and Mickey, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors.
Do you know Eurofix has been a very different business philosophy? They staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready when an emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment for a vehicle repair? Some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get a freaking appointment, but not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says, we will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away, and I'm talking about right now. And Eurofix repairs all European cars, as well as Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for 24 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. A little breaking news out of Seattle. Adam Schefter, Pete Carroll is expected to be out of Seahawks head coach per sources. He could still remain in the organization, but he will not. But not as head coach. It says we'll just pick this baton up and run with it. Let's say hey to our man Jesse Simonton right quick though from On 3 Sports. Jesse, I know we were going to talk yesterday, but boy, some stuff was happening around here with Mike Vrabel. Did you have that on your bingo card that the Titans would be coach shopping?
No, I didn't. It seems like every day, guys, there's some new breaking news in the NFL with this carousel. I mean, the Pete Carroll stuff that Schefter just broke is wild. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Dang, that's
for sure.
Jesse Simonton at Jesse Ray Simonton on 3 Sports, of course, covering college football. Did you have this on your bingo card that a winning quarterback would complete 10 passes for 140 yards and no TDs and hold up the national championship trophy at the end of a game?
That one I could see, Mickey. That one I actually could see. That,
Yeah.
With the stat line that JJ's had really the last 6 weeks of the season, ever since that Purdue game, they just frankly haven't needed him to do a whole lot. And, you know, it's kind of funny because the whole, whether it's the NFL or college, a lot of folks talk about, you know, QB wins. McCarthy now is 27-1 in his career at Michigan. He's won a couple Big Ten championships. He's got a national championship title to his name. And yet there maybe, I think if you're being, you know, generous, there maybe has been 2 or 3 games where they've really asked him to do much of anything. And so, you know, that's just kind of really, frankly, guys, I think that speaks to kind of the team that Jim Harbaugh's put together and the coaching staff and the development of the rest of that program.
Wrapping up the college football season with our guy Jesse Simonton of On 3 Sports.
Well, I guess hail to the victors, as Harbaugh would say, I'm sure. But, man, what do you think is going to happen with, I guess, Michigan first in, I don't know if whatever the allegations are, and then you think also Harbaugh will be back?
Well, it's been Michigan versus everybody all season, guys. So I think that they've, you know, that's been their battle cry. They're kind of rallying point. I don't think they really care. You know, I think it's, you know, banners fly forever. They're not gonna pull that down. I think when you know, you've kind of some folks have kind of, you know, drawn the bridge or the line that, you know, nothing's really happened with Kansas in the, you know, NCAA basketball stuff, even though technically they were penalized. And so I think Michigan's like, you know, we've kind of weathered the storm. Whether something happens, whatever, we won the title. They kind of pushed all their chips in. I wrote almost a year ago, guys, I thought that, you know, Jim Harbaugh and this program was kind of pushing their chips in, you know, for this 2023 season, and they did. And you know what? You know, they hit a royal flush and they went 15-0 and they won all their games, and they're able to kind of stand up and say, hey, you know, we did it. Now, as for Jim Harbaugh, Blaine, I have written also throughout the season that I thought this was going to be his final year at Michigan, and there is nothing to dissuade me from thinking anything changes along those lines.
What makes you so sure of that? And the reason why I asked it, I'm only looking at it contractual wise. Like, I think, you know, colleges can pay much more than actual pro team unless they give him a total autonomy and power, which can happen. But they can offer a bigger contract, and then he's, you know, living in the shadow of, well, we ever win another championship, I got one, and then but I got paid.
Yeah. Well, I would maybe push back a little bit on the contract stuff, only because an NFL team, a lot of NFL coaches, we just don't know their contracts as much as we do the college coaches. So that there's kind of a lack of transparency there with some of those deals. Like there's plenty of NFL coaches that are making well north of $10 million, and I think that is exactly what Jim Harbaugh would net, whether he stays in college where he has $100 million, $120 million contract sitting at his desk, or if he goes to the NFL. Now the question is, which you did kind of, I think, tease there a little bit, is does he want to give up almost full agency in terms of at Michigan, he is, you know, he's the sun. You know, everything revolves around him. You know, everybody else, he is the sun, and everybody else is the stars, the moon, and the rest of the solar system. In the NFL, is he going to have to work under somebody? I think part of the reason why he hasn't jumped the last 2 years. He hasn't been formally offered a position. It was just a year ago that on National Signing Day, he went on National Signing Day, guys. This is how insane it is. Jim Harbaugh went and interviewed for the Minnesota Vikings job with the full intention of taking it. And he simply didn't get it because they didn't offer him carte blanche. They didn't allow him to do the Bill Parcells where you get to both pick the groceries and cook the dinner. And so that's what he's looking for. Does he get that at a place like the Los Angeles Chargers? Could he get that at a place, perhaps, whether it's in Carolina or maybe the Las Vegas Raiders? I don't know. I just think a lot of, dominoes have kind of fallen where he has been wanting to make this move. He now got his alma mater a national championship. Yes, winning another one, I think, Blaine, would be awesome and would make him even more of a legend in Ann Arbor. But he's already a legend, and I think he really wants to win a Super Bowl or at least go chase one more time.
Mm-hmm. As we just discussed, Pete Carroll's, stepping down as the head coach there. Would you see that being a good fit for Harbaugh?
I don't. I think he's going to go somewhere where, frankly, there's kind of more of an established team and framework in place for him to win. And I think that's why, he's close with and again, this is not reporting anything. This is me kind of connecting some dots and just kind of understanding the way some of these machinations work. He has some relationships with obviously folks in Las Vegas and LA, but I think the Chargers make perfect sense that, there's a young quarterback there in Justin Herbert. The framework of that roster is solid. Frankly, guys, they just need better coaching. That's a team that has not lived up to expectations, and Harbaugh is someone that I think kind of rises the floor wherever he goes. And so, could he kind of bring some toughness, some stability to an organization that needs it? I think that would be in a very attractive organization for him, and one that I could see as it's kind of a very good fit.
Well, man, since you know so much about the NFL, where do you think Vrabel's a good fit? I had no idea I'd be asking, but man, you're connected. Give us the ones that's open: Commanders, Chargers, Raiders, Panthers, Falcons.
Seahawks. Honestly, I think I don't know the inner workings of exactly why it soured so quickly in Nashville with Mike, but I think any organization that has an opening, Mike Vrabel should be a guy that they want to talk to, because I think that guy is a good football coach. I could see him doing wonders in Atlanta. I mean, I think that would be a great, that's a team too. That's a team that has a nice established roster. I don't get, in terms of NFL fits, the rumblings, the rumors, that, and I understand the natural, Mike Vrabel back to New England. I do not understand, guys, at all, folks reporting and kind of linking Bill Belichick to Atlanta. I think that would be a terrible move for all parties involved. I don't understand that one at all. But I think, any organization that has an opening should want to talk to Mike Vrabel.
No doubt about it. Jesse Simonton, national college football columnist at On3 Sports. One college question here is, now that the college season is over, with Michigan winning it all, give us your way too early, I guess, prediction on if Tennessee can make the playoffs, top 12 teams.
Well, I released a way too early top 25.
Yeah.
Just as the gun kind of fired off in the national championship game, and it's a fun exercise.
Right.
I think you can kind of pick out. I think there's going to be a clear delineation with those top 5, 6 teams that are fairly obvious, with Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, Oregon. And depending on who comes back for Michigan, whether it is Harbaugh, Sharon Moore taking over, I think the key there will be J.J. McCarthy. I think that's going to be on a lot of, top 6 teams. Tennessee I had right around, I think, somewhere between maybe 12 to 15 and 17. I can't remember. I think they're in that kind of, just outside looking in, but they have the path to do so. And that's going to be, can the defense continue to kind of make strides and leaps? Now in the third year, the fourth year now in that program. And then it's going to be, what do you get from Nico?
Yeah.
And he certainly flashed some real pizzazz and potential in that bowl game. I just think they say he's 215. I don't know about that. He doesn't look 215 or whatever he is. I think the guy definitely needs to gain at least 10 to 15 more pounds, because I think, as you saw in that bowl game, his legs are going to be so prevalent in what Tennessee wants to do. So if he's going to run the ball 20, let's say 10, anywhere between 10 to 16, 18 times a game, that's going to take a beating, and that's going to take, a toll on his body. And so he's going to need to certainly continue to get in the weight room and make sure that's a priority for him, because I think that is going to be an element of the offense. It's going to make that offense even more explosive and dynamic next season, but they're going to need him to be able to kind of withstand some of those hits, because I'm not really sure what they have behind him.
Hey, Jesse Simonton on 3 Sports on the way out. What kind of luck do you think Clemson will have getting out of the ACC?
Clemson or any of them? I don't.
Anybody.
I mean, they can bellyache and hell raise all they want right now, but so far the lawyers don't seem to have found any real wiggle room with that grant of rights, and the land of rights is so tight that I think ultimately there will be something that happens within college football that allows some of those programs to maybe find an exit strategy. But thus far, there's a lot of lawyers, billable hours are undefeated, y'all. Yeah. And there's a lot of lawyers that are, scamming the books to try to find something, anything they can that'll allow the Clemsons, the Florida States, and the Miamis to maybe find a new home. And I will say, as going out here, the problem for some of these programs isn't just getting out of these grant of rights. It's actually then having somewhere to go. And I think too few people are acknowledging the fact that the SEC and the Big Ten, they're not rushing to just grab a team. Yes, these are name brand schools, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, but with some of the TV deals and stuff that they have, sometimes you don't want to split the pie only so many ways. And so, that's a factor in all this too. You can want to get out, but you got to have somewhere to go.
I think they should call that timeshare lawyer who advertises on the Zone. He can get anybody out of anything. Jesse, hey, man, fantastic stuff. We know you and On 3 are doing great work at Jesse R.E. Simonton on 3 Sports. Again, you guys doing great stuff. People can follow all the latest with you there and, of course, with On 3 Sports. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir. Always good catching up with Jesse Simonton. Let's catch back up with some of the callers. All right. We got breaking news. Pete Carroll won't be the coach of the Seahawks going forward. Seahawks have released a statement. He'll stay on in some other capacity. Mike Vrabel getting fired yesterday. That's another opening that who knows who that could attract up there. It could be. So let's jump back in with your Titans phone calls. Phone lines are open for the next rest of this segment, the next segment. Jordan Dajani will join us, but Randy in Nashville is up next on the Blaine and Mickey show. What's up, Randy?
Hey, guys. Love the show. I just want to say, for weeks and weeks, we heard people calling in to various shows wanting to fire Vrabel. We need a new coach. Well, now that she does, everybody's going the opposite way. And look at Denver. When they had Peyton Manning and John Fox went deep into the playoffs 2 years in a row, or 3 maybe. And John Elway, he was a winning coach. John Elway said, hey, it ain't working. I don't think you can get us there. They let him go. Kubiak comes in and wins the Super Bowl. Now, granted, we don't have Peyton Manning, but, sometimes good coaches get fired. And I'll just hang up and listen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the call, Randy.
Well, yeah. I mean, we touched on that before. Now, there's no doubt that Coach Vrabel's a good coach. I think it just came down to you believe that he can take you to the promised land. And I think he needed to upgrade it and update his offensive style and what he wanted. And I think that wasn't the same direction eventually that the ownership didn't want to go. And that's all just reading in between the lines of what is the right direction. And so that will lead me to think that they're going to hire an offensive guy.
Vince checking in all the way from North Carolina. Hey, Vince, thanks for calling Blaine and Mickey.
Hey, Blaine and Mickey, thanks for taking my call. Hitman, been a big fan of yours forever. Listen, Vrabel was a good coach. Okay, let's not deny that. He's a good football coach. But sadly, I think he is stuck in the 90s with his machismo, run the ball first, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Let's find a way to get him in a wrestling match in the fourth quarter and do something at the end to win. Well, in today's NFL, you must score points. That's the bottom line. Also, nobody has said this, but I'm going to say it. They embarrassed Miss Amy. She put so much work in the Oiler throwback uniforms. She met alumni. She was hobnobbing with Earl Campbell that day. I was at that game in when we played the Oilers or the Texans, excuse me. But she's not afraid to make changes, and I think it's time. It's been 6 years, and we don't have a ring. I'll hush up and let y'all talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vince, we appreciate the phone call.
I think that's some parts of it. A lot of people are saying a lot of noise coming out of, talking about the organization throughout the season. I think she wasn't happy about that as well. And as we mentioned, a lot of that was coming from Vrabel's camp. So I think that was something new for her to deal with. And maybe that, this wasn't a good fit if you want to be in New England and not here. Whether he goes there or not is a whole nother question and will be determined when that opening is there. Because we must not forget, the best ever is still employed by New England.
We have our first official interview request from the Tennessee Titans. It is for Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, per Schefter.
As well as they're interviewing, was it Callahan?
Guy Justin Mello,
yeah.
who's going to join us on Friday, reported he had people telling him that they're expected to interview Brian Callahan, the Bengals OC.
Yeah, but I don't know if they had put in an official request yet. I think it was just expected to.
Okay,
I could be wrong about that though.
Well, there's going to be all kinds of expected tos and officials, and it's all about to start hitting the fan. Because they fired him so they could get a jump start on things. Didn't trade him. They fired him.
Aaron Glenn, DC with the Detroit, correct?
Yep.
Guy played with in the Pro Bowl.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I was going to say I thought your pass crossed with him.
Dynamo.
Dan Campbell needs to start looking around because his OC and his DC are both very popular guys right now. All right, we're popular guys because we want to talk to you, and you're popular to us. 615-737-1045. What'd you learn from Rand yesterday? What did you think about what you heard from the owner, Amy Adams Strunk? What do you think about this now that you've had a day to think about it? Mike Vrabel out as the Tennessee head coach. First announced interviews, Bananas just said, request, is with a defensive coordinator. What do you think about that? 615-737-1045. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone talking about the Tennessee Titans and Mike Vrabel Part and Company and what you've heard from the owner. What did she say? Hearing from the general manager who had a long press conference yesterday. What did you hear? What are you thinking? You've had a day to sort of ruminate on all this. Where are you? William checking in all the way from Los Angeles on Blaine and Mickey, powered by All Four Seasons Garage.
What is that about Vrabes down there?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, listen, man, we got Titans fans out here, you know. First, I want to say something to Mr. Bishop. You said yesterday that you're a great Titan, and so I just wanted to say that to you. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Vrabel PR machine that seems to be happening in the national media, and what's happening with the team in terms of like how it's being covered in the national media, because Mike Florio goes on air, you have Rich Eisen going on air, and they're all baffled about this. And the conversation seems to be centering around how the ownership has totally blown it and how they're incompetent and how they don't know what they're doing. But I don't know any other head coach in the NFL that hasn't won a playoff game in 3 years, has had 2 double-digit losing seasons, has held on to coordinators that have underperformed pretty regularly. That doesn't make sense for them to be on the chopping block. And it seems a little offensive to me, frankly, that you have female owners. I'll say it so you guys don't have to. You have female ownership, and the national story is about how she's completely out of her depth. And who's behind generating this story? Because it seems like that's all the national news is talking about. And we know Vrabel has his people that go out there and talk about this. I'm sure he's selling himself for his next job. But it just seems like the whole narrative discredits any accountability for Mike Vrabel, and that's been a frustration for fans for a long time, you know. But, I mean, that's my take. It's like I keep seeing the national news, and they're just talking about how –
Oops. I'm sorry, call dropped. I appreciate the phone call all the way from out in Los Angeles. Well, you got to remember a lot of the discussion we had. The F&M Bank chat was full. People watching on Zone TV, and they were saying, y'all are crazy to even be talking about this. How could you be talking that he wouldn't be the coach? Well, there's a lot of smoke around it. And a lot of the narrative, as we talked about over and over again, a few months ago, the first couple of things kind of got fired out of the cannon were from up in Boston. Boy, everybody felt good when he was up there. And Kraft, that's a guy that he loved and loved being around. And boy, it'd be a good fit if it's in for Belichick. Okay, we mentioned it. Didn't go that far into it because that's people from Boston talking. But then all the other narratives that came out that maybe there were issues with the working relationship or power dynamic or whatever it was, all that stuff was skewed towards Mike Vrabel, right? All of it. So his agent, his camp, whomever, has done a good job of putting his narrative out there, knowing that if something did happen, well, there's this whole narrative out there of, you know, he wanted to be here, and the dynamic wasn't something that he could work with, and all those things, right? So if you're Rich Eisen, that's a guy you've gotten to know. If you're Florio, and that's a guy you've gotten to know, and you've heard one side of the story over and over and over and over and over, maybe that affects how you start talking about it when you start talking about it on your show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, and it was all coming from his camp or his point of view, and I kept saying he's under contract. So I think ownership says, you know what, we're not going to play this game. You know, with the national media putting narratives out there, and neither did actually Rand. We never heard from any people from his camp. Matter of fact, we didn't hear from him personally.
Yeah.
So I think what happened here, if I was guessing, is that Amy and Rand let Mike Vrabel be Mike Vrabel, and he hung himself. And that's why he lost the job, because she didn't like all the noise that was coming out of there, and it can only be coming from your side. And you can say you like it or don't like it, but it made it feel like you didn't want to be here. And these were the things that are on the tea leaves of the checkmark box as we discussed on our show, that why he should be on the hot seat. Because you just take yourself there. She's an owner. She has an ego, and you don't want to be with us, and you're putting all this smoke out here from the time he got inducted to the Ring of Honor there in New England all the way to even the end where the narrative start changes. Oh, I just want to be the coach. I don't want to be the GM. All from his view. All came from Vrabel. So naturally, Vrabel reached out to all these guys and ladies there nationally and tried to put his narrative out there. He knew what was going to happen, and I believe that he didn't want to be the head coach of the Titans, not the way it was structured. And that was actually one of the things that came out. Instead of being the media guy who is just waiting for somebody to tell us something, we just looked at the tea leaves that were out there,
right?
Which were never, ever, really, ever going to be out there from any coach that we have ever known. So he was playing chess in his mind, and that he was still a really good coach. No, my bad, a great coach, which he is a really good coach. He's not a great coach because I don't see no rings on his finger. And that equates to a great coach. And I think they said, you know what? Offensive line's bad again. You told us going into the season that you wanted to run this thing back because you had the players. Yeah. And I think Rand, on the other side, said, I think we maybe should rebuild. That's why all the narrative about trading Henry, getting ready to buy it and trying to redo his contract. And he said, nope, hold up, Vrabel. Vrabel says, I want to run this back. And then he ran it back, and the results were not in his favor. So we shall see. If he goes to a team that's already built, because people all want to talk about his culture, that's a real sensitive word for me when you're talking about a football locker room. The culture, let's get this thing straight on the timeline, was already built by malarkey. Say what you want to say. The culture was already built by malarkey. And he just rolled the wave and took it to another round in the playoffs. That's all he did. So those are facts. You can go back and look at it. But he developed all these friendships, whether nationally or locally, and everybody's not looking. They're looking to the left when they should be looking to the right. And that is his timeline of what he did when he had full autonomy and the offense still averaged 17, 16 points a game in a modern era of football in the NFL. That is unacceptable. And those are the things you should be looking at. Not if you like a guy or not.
Right.
Because the NFL is built on winning. If you don't win, your job is always on the line. That's one thing that's never changed in the NFL. And you saw it. Oh, we can go right in the conference. The Houston Texans. They fired a coach 3 years in a row.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, they're dysfunctional.
Right.
Nobody's saying that now, are they?
Nope.
They finally got it right. Guess what? They said, we're going to keep grinding till we get it right. Mm-hmm. Hey. And he benefited, by the way, Vrabel, on that, playing in a very weak conference.
Oh, South ain't looking too weak anymore, though.
And look what happened.
Fourth.
We were falling
to
the wayside.
I think something that Blaine said, this is something we've talked about off the air. No, we'll hit the break. We'll come back. Phone lines are full. We'll take all your calls. I promise you. We'll just take calls. The silence of Rand Carthon throughout all this. Nothing ever came out from his perspective. Mm-mm. No, Adam Schefter never said, well, the Rand Carthon. Nope, nothing ever came out. I'm going to sit in my office. A-Rob and Chad and me are going to do the thing that we got hired to do. We'll just be down here if you need us. I'm going to just let things play out. Nothing ever came out from his perspective, not once. Hey, I didn't get hired to leak stuff. I got hired to evaluate personnel, and we'll keep doing that. Just be right down here if y'all need me. All right, we need hour number 2. So stick around. We'll take your phone calls. Phone lines, we do have one open, 615-737-1045 as we continue to talk Titans, talk Mike Vrabel, talk the future. We got to talk about all that. Remember, you download that Zone app, and no matter where you go, the Zone goes with you. All your favorite shows, all the time. You just stick in your earbuds, and you just keep on rocking and rolling with us. Back for hour number 2 next.
I know game.
All right, as good as the regular season is, let's Blaine and Mickey 1045 Zone. Hit the BBBNS. There, Joseph Bananas. So in the first hour of the program, Adam Schefter with the news, the Titans would request Aaron Glenn. Had put in a request for the Lions defensive coordinator. Obviously, the Lions are still playing, so that may take a minute. Ian Rappaport just now, 34 seconds. Bananas caught this. Bananas is like a radar dish. If anybody tweets about the Titans, his radar goes off, and it sounds just like the Blaine Bishop breaking news sounder in his head. All right. I know everybody's excited to hear about this, right? The offensive mind, some offensive genius. Well, guess what? That's a defensive coordinator. And the second request is for Antonio Pierce, the interim coach of the Raiders. Also not an offensive Not an offensive guy.
Defensive guy. Another defensive guy.
Yes.
Ian Rappaport said this?
Yep, just now.
The way the Raiders played for him down the stretch of the season, I would not mind that. I wouldn't. Great leader, seems like. Great culture guy. He had them playing hard. I'd like to see what he would do with a real quarterback, because they were just kind of throwing scraps out there at QB for the Raiders, but be an interesting candidate.
Oh, here we go. Right here, I see it. First, I didn't see it. I kept scrolling on Ian Rappaport's deal. Aaron Pierce, I thought he fit what the Raiders represented. He's a West Coast guy. Yep. By the way,
Long Beach Poly was a high school coach out there getting started.
I think he
out.
understood like the buttons to push for the organization, as well as the players and what the Raiders represent. Unfortunately, wherever you get the interim tag, it seems like they never ever at any organization. Usually, that guy gets the job It just doesn't work. That guy last year was a special teams coach. I forgot where he went to, Dallas or Green Bay. He did a great job, too, as their interim, and then, then didn't get the job either.
Yep.
Well, that was 3 seasons ago. Yeah, so, this was, I think he showed that he could actually run an organization. I don't think he was on anybody's radar. But 2 defensive guys, quality people in Aaron Glenn. I know both of them on a personal level. Good people, probably not quite ready to be head coaches, but we shall see. Because Aaron Pierce, Pierce showed that he could actually do it. I mean, what did he was 6-5 or what was he 5-4 or something? He only was 1 game over or 2 games over, something close. But
and Antonio Pierce,
Antonio, I keep saying
they look different.
Antonio Pierce,
he's only been in the NFL
Aaron
2
Glenn,
years.
Yeah,
came from college.
Yeah, he was at Arizona State. And he was, I think, the DC there with Herm Edwards. So Edwards actually hired him there on the staff. I think he was there with yours truly. What was the head coach of the Bengals years ago? Lewis. They were all 3 there together.
Antonio Pierce was 5-4 after taking over for the Raiders on November 1st. He also swept the 3 games he had left in their division of the AFC West to finish out the season.
Today, if I'm Mark Davis, especially this comes down, I'd be like, hey, man, let's get in the office and settle this.
Yeah. There's also rumors Pierce going to the Giants as the DC because the DC walked out because he was hearing rumblings that he wouldn't be back.
And they officially announced that about 45 minutes ago that they have parted ways.
Yeah.
With Wink Martindale.
Yeah. And that's where Pierce actually, his career where he was, the starting linebacker there. We also have to mention they have to, qualify the Titans, that is, have to do the Rooney Rule, which I think is 2 minority candidates. Is that true, Mickey? Do you know the rule or not?
I know it's at least 1.
Okay.
Yep.
So we must, state that. So they're getting those boxes checked too as well. But I think these guys are qualified. So we shall see where this time clock goes as far as their interviews.
It is 2. I just looked it up.
2 now.
So
okay.
2.
Take some of these phone calls. You guys want to do that? Jordan Dajani coming up in just a few minutes. But right now, it is time for Philip in Watertown. He is up next. Hey, Philip.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Good. I was just calling because I had a question. Do you think possibly the last game against the Jaguars might have fueled a little bit of that fire for the Mike Vrabel firing? Just because, where was this all year long?
That's exactly what I said.
Oh, Philip, you just hit a button over here.
And I don't know why it looked like that, because they were doing 7 steps drops. They started doing the short passing game, deep passing. I mean, the offense was cooking. I mean, man, I don't know. They looked different to me. They look loose and they look relaxed. And, they were playing like a team like, hey, we don't have anything to lose and everything to gain. And the Jaguars doing all the pressures on them. Maybe it was that, or just, the players felt loose because, season's over. Why not let's go play ball? No worry about, if I mess up, oh, well.
And guys messed up.
Oh, yeah, they did.
But they just kept on trucking.
Yeah, the team looked different. That was kind of interesting. Huh.
Todd in Bowling Green up next. Checking in from Kentucky. Hey, Todd.
Hey, man. How's you guys doing?
Good.
Hey, I agree with you all on everything that you said as far as the good coach, great coach.
Uh-huh.
And Rand kind of said something yesterday that drove home my point. We lost 7 games this year, 1-score games, which just makes me to realize is game management. How was Vrabel's game management? How was his coach's game management? We lost 7 games, 1-score games. Even going back to last year, all that losing streak we went on to end the season. There was no game management. Maybe could have won 1 or 2 of those games. I was at the Indianapolis game, and the hitman was there. He came out on the end of the arena where I was sitting, and fired up to everybody.
Yeah.
But after that game was over, of course our punter got killed.
Yeah.
But after that game was over, I'm walking to my car, just talking to my son, talking to my friends. How did we lose that game? The whole
exactly
time you think, we've won. We're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. But I I think they have it in the back of their mind, his game management skills, to lack of a better term or a better phrase of putting it, just wasn't there. And I don't know if they had faith in him. If we get into the playoffs and we get in a tight situation, what's it going to look like? I'm going to hop off here and just listen to your all's thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Game management. I don't know. Do you feel like game man? I don't know if I can say that, but I sure felt like they should have won that game, let alone some other games. To me, you got to look at it on the reverse side too. Vrabel won a lot of close games too, when we had winning records. So, sometimes the football guys are on your side, sometimes not. I don't want to say it was game management. When I think of bad game management, I think of McCarthy for the Cowboys. And this thing, they won 12 games.
The worst game management guy I've ever seen was the guy who was with the Chargers.
Oh, the head coach there?
Where they'd be, 4th and 5 from their own 27 and be like, 100% we're going for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backed up.
Come
Backed
on,
up.
man.
Yeah.
Come on.
I just think when you have a winning mindset, you win those close games most times than not. I just think this year they just didn't have enough.
Really, before I knew that Mike Vrabel was going to get fired, I was just trying to write down, my thoughts about the season. And one of the things I wrote down is this, because everybody keeps talking about the 7 one-score game losses. And here was my question. What did it say about Mike Vrabel's coaching job? Was it that he was good enough to take a bad roster and keep that many games that close? Or was it that he wasn't a good enough coach to finish 7 times in a one-score game? Was it more that, man, he coached this not good roster, and they were competitive every week almost. They had 7-1. Was it that? Or was it, man, they were in 7 games that they could have won? Was it more that he got them to that point, or was it more that he couldn't get them over the hump in those 7 games? Because they were there a lot, 7 times, couldn't finish. Had those games that went to overtime. Had games where they just needed one more stop from the defense. They couldn't get it.
But didn't it feel funny that the defense would play well, then all of a sudden, then when they need one stop,
couldn't get it.
They couldn't get it every time. And they could have played well the entire game, and then all of a sudden, or the offense couldn't get one first down to get them in the field goal range to
At
win
the end of the game. Yep.
Yeah. And it was just like,
It never felt like a coaching decision that lost them those one-score games. It was always a penalty on 3rd down or a false start that screwed up a game-winning or a possible game-winning drive. It was those little things, which those go back to the coaches. It ultimately goes back to the head coach getting your guys ready in those moments, and they just weren't ready. But it wasn't like a decision he made, like not calling a timeout or something like that cost them a game.
No,
I do think, though, there were people who called them out, though, for playing conservative offense.
Right, and that's where I was going to go. I was just going to say, just that style, Mike Vrabel style, had run its course, and it couldn't take us to where I think Amy wanted to think that they could take this team into a Super Bowl. That offensive style, averaging 17 and 16 points back-to-back seasons, come to realization there's no way in chance, and you know what, that we're going to be a Super Bowl contending team. I think really the bottom line, that was it. And he showed repeatedly that is what he is in his style. And he wasn't going to change it.
You want one more reported interview request before we go to the break and get Jordan Dajani on here?
Sure.
That offensive mind that everybody's been looking for? Well, this ain't him either. Dan Quinn is their
another defensive guy.
Yes, 3 for 3.
Hey, now she's holding to her word. I'm broad
Cast
net.
a wide net.
It's not going to be just an offensive guy. So, remember what I said. When you're looking left, also then go back and look to the right. So all this defense, that really means I'm going offense.
Ooh. I'm going to start looking. Which way should I look again?
Left, right, left, right.
I'm going to look both ways so a car doesn't hit me.
Until she hits the buzzer and said, that's it.
All right, let's hit the buzzer on this segment. Let's get our guy Jordan Dajani in here next. Remember, anything that you miss, wherever you find your favorite podcast, the Blaine and Mickey Show, it is right there. So if you want to catch it all again, or if you missed something, remember, we're on all of your favorite spots. Just rate, review, and subscribe. When we come back, we'll rate, review, and subscribe to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports.
Pop it like it's hot. If someone hasn't asked you already, maybe you've asked yourself, what is my resolution for 2024? Well, luckily for you, thanks to the team at Cool Ray Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing and Electrical, I've got some great ideas for how you can take care of yourself and your home better this year. So maybe you want to be better about saving money. Well, consider a $69 tune-up on your home's heating system so you can ensure your HVAC system operates at the highest efficiency. Or maybe you want to be better about taking care of your health. Well, if you're stocking your fridge and freezer with good food because you're hoping to eat better, don't let the next power outage from the storm spoil that food. So get a free estimate on any whole home generator from Cool Ray's electrical team. So find the next resolution you can stick to this year and schedule your next visit for any of the services at coolray.com. That's coolray.com. Yep, I remember Cat.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. We got another one. Another reported interview, Tom Pelissero.
Ooh.
I'm not even going to tease you guys. It is an offensive guy this time. Giants OC Mike Kafka. Titans have requested an interview for him. So he's the second offensive person. Our guy Justin Mello reporting earlier, Brian Callahan would get a request from the Titans. So other than that, defensive guys, let's conference our guy Jordan Dajani in right now. JD, there's so much to react to. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Man.
First of all, we'll ask you, how in the world are you doing today?
What's going on, my friends? I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And wow, what a turn of events. Mike Vrabel is out in Tennessee, and now I'm even more excited to spend the offseason with you guys breaking down all these coaching candidates, the NFL draft, and all the things that come in between.
Well, what were your thoughts originally? Because everybody who texted me yesterday said, you got to be surprised. And I responded to all of them. And I said, at this point, I'm never surprised by anything anymore. There were tea leaves and there was smoke, and it seemed like something was going on. And he didn't do an interview, the day after the season. And then his own quarterback said, well, he told us he'll let us know when he knows something. Well, at that point, nothing was going to surprise me.
Yeah, that's true. You showed a lot more intuition than I did. I was surprised. I thought that Titans ownership would want to keep Mike Vrabel, which is why I thought he would be back, and I was wrong. So it's wild how quickly things turned, right? I mean, on November 23rd, the Athletic said definitively that Vrabel wasn't going to be fired or traded, but here we are. And we know this has to do with Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Vrabel's visions for the future of the franchise not being the same. What are those visions? Well, we don't know because Rand Carthon won't tell us. But most players liked playing for Mike Vrabel. His calling card was fielding teams that were more competitive than they looked on paper, maybe. That narrative did take a hit this year, but they still had the Dolphins upset and the Jaguars win in Week 18. So it was a fun time for a bit, but now the building is being turned over and the Titans are entering what is a full rebuild.
Jordan Dajani, our guest, CBS Sports. You can read all of his stuff there.
Well, Jordan, now that Vrabel is no longer with the Titans, where do you think Vrabel will be a good fit with the openings that exist today, which is not New England?
That's a good question. And I mean, I'm really intrigued to hear what Vrabel has to say whenever he does speak publicly. I don't know if that's going to be on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast or talking with NFL media, NFL Network, whatever it may be. But when I look at Mike Vrabel as a head coach, I would imagine that he is kind of one of those tier one guys, one of those hot commodities out on the open market, if you will. And looking at the coaching carousel this offseason, to be honest with you guys, just in my opinion, I don't know if it's as intriguing as it was last year. Maybe that changes with the additions of Mike Vrabel, Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, if you will, potentially. But when it comes to Mike Vrabel and looking at where he could potentially land, I would imagine that this is someone who wants some kind of power within the organization that would be more so than the average head coach in the NFL, similar to the power he had with the Tennessee Titans. So I would be looking at different organizations that would be more willing to give a veteran head coach that kind of power. So is that the Las Vegas Raiders if they move on from Antonio Pierce? Maybe. The Seattle Seahawks are now open. It looks like Dan Quinn may be a hot candidate for that job. Would it be really funny to see Mike Vrabel follow Arthur Smith with the Atlanta Falcons? But he's going to have his options, I'll tell you that.
Any surprises as far as coaches still have a job? I'm looking at the Chicago Bears. I mean, kind of give me your picture on why he should still be the head coach. Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I never want to be someone calling for another man's job. But if I was in control of the Chicago Bears, I would be operating a little bit differently. They did fire their offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, which is a move I thought they could have done in season. I think it may say something about the direction of the franchise, considering that they hold the number one overall pick in the draft. So it was nice meeting you. Justin Fields is kind of where my thought process immediately goes with that. As far as Matt Eberflus goes, he really did engineer a turnaround with that defense through the late portions of the regular season. And if I had to point to something that quote unquote saved his job, it would probably be that. I really do like Matt Eberflus as a defensive mind. I'm not 100% sold on him as a head coach. I talked to a couple of Bears fans this morning, and they voiced the same sentiments. They're not exactly the biggest Matt Eberflus fans. So we'll see if he can hold on to that job past 2024. In terms of another head coach that I'm a little surprised maybe kept his job, might have been Dennis Allen with the New Orleans Saints. He's someone who doesn't seem to have an incredible backing with the fan base, if you will. I think the Saints underachieved with their preseason goals here in 2022, but he's going to get another shot, and it looks like the Saints are going to adjust some of their coaching positions on the assistant side of things.
You said something earlier about Vrabel, and a lot of people are saying that. I'm not so sure if I buy into that, and that is Mike Vrabel should have the choice of having total control over an organization. What are the qualifications of why coaches get that opportunity?
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I actually agree with you on this. And it might have been something I said on your show earlier this year, but if fans are out for blood, if they're out for someone to put on the hot seat, it wasn't Mike Vrabel, the head coach, in my opinion. It wasn't Rand Carthon, the general manager, who was a first-year guy with the franchise. It was Mike Vrabel, the general manager. I mean, It's been reported about some of the roster moves that he made that did not work out. It seems like he definitely had more power in the building in terms of construction with the roster after the ousting of John Robinson. And obviously that did not work in 2022. So I also wonder, is that what they talked about in that meeting yesterday with Amy Adams Strunk, right? In terms of control over the roster. If she wanted to make a move, which is kind of hard to demote a head coach after he's had that power. And after that conversation, that's when they decided to part ways. That's just me being me speculating, if you will. But when it comes to your resume and why coaches have that certain power, I think it's really just having success on the field, which Mike Vrabel did for a short time in Tennessee. It's someone who has really proven himself to upper management, someone that is inspiring faith among decision makers with the franchise. And I think that's what Mike Vrabel did for a certain amount of time with the Tennessee Titans, which is why he got that power.
Reason why I asked that question, because a lot of people make assumptions, and hopefully owners are listening to our show, the Blaine and Mickey show, because I know they are, because Jordan Dajani's on. Yeah. That is, they think just because you're a really good head coach, means that you're really good at evaluating talent. And those two are two different skill sets that most coaches probably don't have both of those. I'm sure there are some unique ones, as we've seen with Bill Belichick, who does it. See, so I'm just wondering, why would an organization, if you're just paying attention to the league, give somebody full autonomy, unless they have a Super Bowl ring? That's why I asked that question.
Right. I think it's a great question. And I think those are good points that I'm totally in alignment with. There's our different skill sets when it comes to coaching on Sundays on the sideline, and then roster management and building with the salary cap itself. Those are two different things. And I mean, to be a guy that can do both of those at a high level, that seems like a very rare breed. So if I had to guess, it doesn't seem like Mike Vrabel was that kind of guy. I feel like if he was, the Titans would be sitting pretty right now, and he would be still in control of the franchise as a head coach and also having a strong voice with roster construction as well. So I 100% agree with you. I think that NFL franchises definitely need to be careful with the kind of power they give head coaches in terms of if they're not Super Bowl winners, if they haven't been with the franchise for years and years and years. I'm not going to try to claim that the Titans are a case study for that. Again, we're totally speculating on this, but I think that's a good point by you.
Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
What do you think is the best job that's currently available? And I guess throw Seattle into the mix as that came out today. And if it's not Tennessee, where do you think they rank among these jobs that are available?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't think I look at the Titans job as the number one on the market. I think that they could fall anywhere else between 2 to 5. I'm going to put the Carolina Panthers dead last. I can tell you that right now. But one job that I would be interested in might be the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that having your franchise quarterback in place, your definitive franchise quarterback, who, by the way, is already under contract, is a big deal. And the Chargers, when you look at the roster, it just seems year after year they should have been better than the product that we witnessed on the field. And you can chalk a lot of those deficiencies up to the way that Brandon Staley operated as a lead man. So I'm sure that there are offensive-minded coaches around the league that look at the Chargers and say, wow, man, if I had all that under my guidance, then we would be doing something. And I know it's a tough division, and there's certainly some money things that need to be figured out in LA. But the Chargers would probably be close to the top of my list. And who wouldn't want to live in California either?
Yeah. Especially if you made millions, and you wouldn't have to worry about anything financially. So let me ask you this. Sometimes when an opening comes open and you look at who's out there available, you think, gosh, that guy's just perfect for that job. That seems sometimes like it happens more in college where you can just project a coach to a team. But does anybody seem, or maybe a couple of guys seem like a no-brainer addition for the Titans as head coach?
To be honest with you, no. I do not have a candidate that I'm absolutely in love with and I'm pounding the table for. I think I was a lot more excited, again, last year with some of the candidates coming out. I don't know if it was because I was more familiar with them, but I love Shane Steichen. I love D'Amico Ryans, and those are two guys that quickly found their footing as lead men at this level. If I had to rank the head coaching candidates, if Jim Harbaugh is going to be out there, that's going to be someone I'd be interested in, no doubt about that. Ben Johnson is the guy who everyone's going to be talking about, and I understand why. The Detroit Lions ranked in the top 5 in total yards and points per game, I think in back-to-back seasons now. He's done a tremendous job with that Detroit Lions offense, and he's done a good job getting what he can out of Jared Goff as well. So Ben Johnson is probably, close to my number one if I'm ranking these coaching candidates. Bobby Slowick is an intriguing name to me. He was a first-year offensive coordinator, so a lot of people are going to be chomping at the bit to get on him, but at the same time, I'm not 100% sold on him. I think he did a great job developing C.J. Stroud, making up for some of the deficiencies and injuries on the Houston offensive front. We know what happened with Nico Collins, Devin Singletary, Tank Dell. He did a great job with that offense in general. Him as a play caller, I feel like I'm still kind of trying to figure out. Maybe we'll see him break out in the playoffs against the Cleveland Browns. Bobby Slowick is certainly someone to keep in mind as well. And finally, I'll leave you with the coordinators for the Baltimore Ravens. Let's talk about Todd Monken and Mike McDonald. I think these are two guys who could end up being very hot candidates when it's all said and done because they both had hands in the Baltimore Ravens entering the playoffs as the number one team in most people's power rankings. So those are guys that the NFL world is certainly paying attention to.
Let's keep it rolling here with Jordan Dajani of CBSSports.com. He is at Jordan Dajani on Twitter or X or whatever you're calling it today.
Well, Jordan, which game is at the top of your list for the playoffs there? I'm looking at a few, man. All of them really sound so interesting, but which one piques your interest the most?
I'm excited for Super Wildcard Weekend, man. But how about the Los Angeles Rams at Detroit Lions, right? Matthew Stafford versus Jared Goff. Are you kidding me? But, there's so much to break down with this matchup. In my mind, it features two of the more explosive offenses in the NFL. But as for their defenses, you can't exactly say the same thing. The inconsistencies on Detroit's defense have been well documented over the course of this regular season. I think you can say the same thing about the Rams defense as well. Now, they do have some pretty talented young studs on the defensive line. They also have some guy by the name of Aaron Donald there. But this secondary allowed 7 passing touchdowns on throws, 20-plus air yards down the field in the last 5 games. That ranks most in the NFL. It's really going to come down to which defense plays better. And you look at the Lions defense quickly, they're returning some playmakers. We're talking about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Aleem McNeil on the defensive line, James Houston, the young pass rusher that can serve as a spark plug for this defense. That probably is the matchup that I'm most looking forward to here on Super Wildcard Weekend.
No doubt about it. I guess I'm looking at this Green Bay-Dallas game, and if McCarthy doesn't win this game, man, I'm not winning 12 games back-to-back years. Could he be in trouble? Dare I say?
I think he could be in trouble. You know what's crazy? I was looking at some of the trends with this game. The Packers are 5-0 straight up and against the spread all time at AT&T Stadium, which blew my mind. The Packers are 4-0 all time versus the Cowboys at that stadium. They're an underdog in all 4 games. Dak Prescott is 1-5 against the spread in 6 playoff starts. The Cowboys are 0-3 against the spread in home playoff starts as well. And again, we've been talking about it all year. This is the opportunity for Dak Prescott and his offense to change the narrative that they can make a deep postseason run. And they're playing against the youngest team in the playoffs in the Green Bay Packers. But this guy, Jordan Love, he's been playing some pretty good football as of late. He had the most games with 2 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the NFL this season. 32 passing touchdowns, which is tied for the second most behind Dak Prescott. The Packers are an intriguing team to me. They're playing like they got nothing to lose, while the Cowboys seemingly have everything to lose. So that'll be an entertaining game as well.
Eagles, upset alert with Tampa Bay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm taking Tampa Bay in this game. I can tell you right now. The Eagles are the 6th team all time to make the playoffs after going 1-5 or worse in the final 6 games. Their +5 point differential this season is the 5th worst all time by an 11-win team. They finished 30th in scoring defense at 25.2 points per game allowed this season, and they have failed to cover the spread in 6 straight games. That's the longest active streak in the NFL. There's no doubt that this team is reeling on both sides of the ball. This is not the kind of football you want to be playing as you enter the postseason, having to go on the road. You're dealing with injuries to Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. I would even hypothesize that Jalen Hurts is dealing with some bumps and bruises as well. But the main thing to pay attention to in this matchup is the Eagles secondary, which has really struggled all season long. I know that Baker Mayfield is dealing with some kind of injury. He didn't look fantastic in that regular season finale against Carolina, but this is someone who has slinged the rock all season, especially with Mike Evans out there on the perimeter. I'm going to go ahead and take the Bucs at home here in the first round.
Were you stunned with my man over at the Seahawks no longer with them, Pete Carroll?
I was stunned. But, he's 72 years old. It felt like at some point he was going to step down from his post. And, according to reports, he might retain some role in the front office, which would make a lot of sense. But, man, shout out to Pete Carroll. What an incredible career as a head coach with the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl winning coach. It's just amazing what he's doing at 72 years old. Anytime my parents say they're feeling old, I send them clips of Pete Carroll running routes with his wide receiver gloves and staying up past their bedtime to coach in primetime games on primetime TV. So Pete Carroll, incredible coach. It's interesting because as soon as that news came out, it seemed like outlets from all over the country started pointing to Dan Quinn. So maybe we have our first favorite in the clubhouse, if you will, to land that first head coaching job. It could be Dan Quinn in Seattle.
Jordan Dajani, always great catching up with you, man. What a wild time. And you and your friends at CBS Sports are doing a fantastic job covering it. Just real quick on the way out, next big article coming out from you that people need to be looking for.
Yeah, today I talked with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. So we talked a little bit about their offensive coordinator, who might or might not be a candidate for the Titans head coaching job.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about lessons learned this season. I even asked Jamar Chase about Mr. Joe Brady, a guy I've been talking to you guys about over the past few weeks, the interim offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. So we had a fun little conversation. We'll have a Q&A up at cbssports.com, hopefully later today.
Sounds good, brother. Be good, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good stuff.
As always, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Always great catching up with JD. When we come back, we'll give you a fully updated list. Everybody we know with a reported interview with the Titans will also finish up on the phone. So if you were on, hold on. We'll try to squeeze in as many more calls as we can today on Blaine and Mickey.
Life is busy. We could all use some extra time in our day, which is exactly why Two Rivers Ford offers mobile service. We'll bring the service to your driveway at no additional charge. Oil changes, brakes, batteries, the certified technicians at Two Rivers will perform basic maintenance on your vehicle wherever you are, so you'll have more time for moments like this. Schedule your mobile service appointment by scanning the QR code or calling Two Rivers Ford today.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. If you see Rand Carthon today, don't bother him because he's busy. Is 6 now reported? Is that right, Josie Bananas?
Yeah, so Adam Schefter just Thank you, Blaine. Adam Schefter just reported that Mike McDonald, the Ravens defensive coordinator, who is actually the odds-on favorite that I saw from this
Bet
morning
Online,
from
yep.
Bet Online. He has been requested as an interview.
Whoa. Odds on favor of what?
Titans head coach. Bet Online's already got
Mike McDonald?
He was plus 300.
That's what a
on Bet
fool
Online
believes,
this morning.
some might say, but it's Mike McDonald.
So the list,
Taking it to the streets.
Awesome,
so
Ronald
the
McDonald.
full list
Yes.
as of right now is defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, Dan Quinn; defensive coordinator for the Lions, Aaron Glenn; offensive coordinator for the Giants, Mike Kafka; rumors for the Bengals offensive coordinator, Callahan; Antonio Pierce, interim head coach for the Raiders; and now defensive coordinator for the Ravens, Mike McDonald.
Wow. Boy, he went to work quickly.
Yeah, he's not messing
I don't know
around.
if we've ever seen this many requests in the first day. Do you recall?
No. I mean, we found out about this around 11 o'clock yesterday. This news broke. That means it happened before then in the building, but the news came out around 11. So
as soon as he left that presser, he was.
I want to talk to your guy.
Yep.
I want to talk to your guy. I'm now your guy. Yeah, he is.
6 people.
And I think everybody's thinking they're going to interview every OC. This is one defensive guy after another. That's Antonio Pierce and Dan Quinn and Aaron Glenn and Mike McDonald.
And for everyone saying that they have to wait for like the playoff teams to leave to request, not to request. Ben Johnson's been requested multiple times. They requested Aaron Glenn from the Lions, same team.
Yeah.
So it's not like they can't request them right now.
Good point.
They just haven't yet.
Yeah. Our guy CJ texted us and said, another Mike possibly. Mike Munchak, Mike Vrabel, Mike Mike Malarkey.
Oh, my.
Mike Kafka. Mike McDonald.
They're dropping the mic here. They did drop the mic. They dropped Mike Vrabel. Let's try to squeeze in a couple of these phone calls. Josh in Nashville has been patiently on hold. Hey, Josh, thank you for calling.
What's up, guys? How you doing this afternoon?
Hey, you tell us.
Great.
Hey, man. Just thinking about this, like kind of taking a nuanced approach to this thing. And I look at, there's so many factors that contribute to successful endeavor, whether that be the football team or business or even relationships.
Yes.
But chief among those is the ability to identify trends. And you look at this and you say, well, okay, since the Bengals lost in the playoffs, this team has been trending downward. There's no two ways about that. And, I like Mike Vrabel. I think he's a good to great football coach. But the last 2 years, the trend, you have to determine, is this a trend or is this the anomaly? Maybe one season is the anomaly, but after 2, you have to start thinking about it in different terms. And you say, well, hey, how do we stop the bleeding? How do we stop this trend? I give kudos to the Titans. I give kudos to Miss Amy. It's a bold move. The future, who knows?
Oh, my hands weren't on anything.
Oh, he accidentally probably hit sniped himself. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah,
Okay,
you sniped yourself and you
that
came
was
back.
me. That was my
All right.
fault. I'll take blame for that.
Oh, no worries. Well, I've said too much already, so I'll let you.
So what do you do? What do you do?
What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I do a little bit of everything. I got my hands in more stuff than I know what to do with. But
Okay.
I just think, in anything that I've ever done that I did well, it was because I had the ability to assess the situation and say, hey, this is either trending upward or trending downward, and then make good, sound decisions based on that. Like I say, the only time will tell if this was a good, sound decision, but it is a bold decision. It is saying we are stopping this trend now.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, at 11 a.m. yesterday, the Titans are now trending upwards.
Thank you,
I'm
Josh.
out.
Harold adds in the F&M Bank chat, that guy's got to be a drug dealer. He's kidding, Josh. He's kidding. But,
Yeah, that was a good analogy there, man. Yeah, I think she was thinking in that business manner. I think so.
No more Mike, says OG in the chat. All right, Cooper in Fort Lauderdale. Got like 30 seconds to talk, man. What you got for us? Yeah, fast.
Yeah, just a quick comment on the whole DC interview process. I'm going to be sick if we keep interviewing DC to hire a new DC. I think you have a great head coach that's a defensive guy. He's got to have a really good OC next to him. That OC takes off, boom, he's on a new team. Now you got to start the process all over. So I want an OC, an offensive guy at the helm where we can keep him around for years and don't have to worry about them poaching, our OCs off the team. You got to start that process all over again.
Time's up.
I just don't want to, do the same thing over and over and expect different results. I just don't think that's going to work.
There you go, Cooper.
Yeah, we're going to get these last 2 or 3 in.
All right, real quick. Paul, you got to go fast, man. What you
15
got?
seconds.
Yeah, we were 7-3 to start the season last year when Ryan went down, and we had Malik Willis as our quarterback. How can you judge a team the last half of last year with a bad quarterback, and then this year we lose Ryan again, and we have a rookie quarterback? I don't know how you can judge a head coach with those two issues and say, people, that we need a total re-over. I don't understand that.
Well, I think some Texans fans might say we did pretty good with the rookie quarterback.
Right.
And I know that's an anomaly. He played great, but he was a rookie, and he played great. All right, Tim in Ohio.
One thing he said there, 2 quarterbacks, and I could say 3 on the list that all got injured.
That's true. All right, Tim in Ohio, you will finish us up today. Thank you for calling.
Hey, no problem. I was listening to your CBS guy just a moment ago.
Yes.
And I look at it completely different. I think Tennessee might be the best available spot to go to. The Chargers don't make any sense to me personally. They have like $35 million over the cap at the moment, and expiring contracts like Mike Williams, the running back Eckler, and just a lot of big roster question marks at the moment.
Yeah.
Tennessee, you have almost the most salary cap space in the NFL, a promising young rookie quarterback that you're really excited about.
Hey, buddy, we're up against it, man. Thank you for the phone call. I get what he's saying, though.
No.
You got money. You got a young quarterback.
You got to look at the whole totality, the whole picture.
Got a high draft pick. Got a new stadium coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Amy said all those things, too.
She did, too. She sounded like a Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, she was
president. Selling hard. By the way, we can't sell anything else because we got to go. The sales are over. We'll sell you 3 HL. They're coming up next.
But in the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.